So we're going to get started. I have a couple announcements before we do presentations. We've gone through projects on Observatory and removed all the ones that look like old projects and all the users that aren't current. We might have removed you by accident. If that's the case, let us know. So Observatory shouldn't have any of those old projects anymore, but we might have accidentally copied you in the process. With that, Observatory is looking kind of unhappy. We need more people to actually be doing logs every week and committing code often. It looks a lot better now that we got rid of all the projects that people were already working on this summer, but people need to be actually writing blog posts every week, not just the weekly presentation. If you haven't paid your $10 for pizza, you still need to do that. We have 32 people so far. It's a lot more than 32 people here. If you're eating pizza and haven't paid, you should pay up. And in general, RCOS is being watched much more this summer than in the past. We're running out of money with a lot of people, more than ever before. We just showed that we can actually make RCOS successful. We need to be actually making projects that we're working on. If we're paying you to do something, you should actually be doing something.
And it's also for your own good. It's not only, if you make an attempt, don't be afraid to fail. If you fail, it's okay, but you have to make an effort to do this. That's very important. And it is not only important for you, it is important for the future generation of RCA students. So that is more important, that's why.
If you're having difficulty with something in your code, ask your mentor, talk about it in your blog. If you spent the whole week researching something, write about it in the blog. That's why it's there.
If we have a piece of code that's not working perfectly, but it's still usable, is it all right to like push it?
You should be pushing everything. When your code doesn't work at all, you should still be pushing it.
Yeah, you can explain why it is not working. That's okay. So it is always whatever you do, if you encounter some difficulty, writing about the difficulty will be helpful to others so that they will not commit the same mistakes again. So that's again a contribution.
If people have broken code, would it be, I guess, a good idea to just push that to development branch or something?
However you want to manage, it's up to you. I mean, it ultimately doesn't really matter, but eventually the code should become working, whether it's your entire repo is full of broken code right now or just not managed. It doesn't matter, just commit stuff. Yeah, that's not it for announcements. Professor Goldschmidt. Oh, yes, we need people to sign up for talks. I haven't seen the list as of the past couple days, but I imagine that there's no one signed up, so you don't need to wait until the week before to sign up for talks. You should be signing up for talks throughout the entire summer. Everyone's expected to be giving 2 presentations during the summer. So if you haven't given one yet, you really need to give a presentation. And we're halfway through the summer, so we should almost be getting ready to start the second presentations. Professor Goldschmidt's now going to give a talk called stress testing.
Yes. All right, folks. Haven't seen you in a few weeks. Hello again. This is Grapefruit, what you're seeing on the screen here. I'm not really going to present it. The focus is pull out your laptops if you've got them. We're going to do some testing and play with this system if you play along. Real briefly, actually segueing from what was just said, this project is in some ways a failure. There's been a lot of failures, a lot of roadblocks along the way that students have worked on in the semester that just ended in the spring and also last fall. This was born roughly, I think, November of last year, so it's still relatively new. Grapefruit is it's a way to have online classes essentially provided to students. And the rollout of this right now, the plan is at the end of this month, so only 2 weeks away roughly, is to roll this out to incoming freshmen, roughly 30 students coming in who are going to go through the Calculus 1 course. We're not going to look at Calc 1 today. I actually have a set of instructions for you to kind of get up and running on this. First of all, raise your hand if you do have your laptop, just so I get a count roughly of how many folks are, or phone. Go try the phone, why not? 1, 2, 3, 4. So roughly 30 plus, that's good. Excellent. So here you see a set of instructions, and feel free to start doing this. Essentially, you're going to navigate to this site, and you'll sign up. And we're asking that you use just a fake email. You're not going to get an email address or an email from the system. But test underscore, because we're going to delete all these later, so it'll be an easy way to delete from the database. Just looking for test underscore. So create your account, test underscore, put your RCS ID or some whatever there at anything, gmail.com, RPIU. Doesn't really matter. Once you're logged in, and I'll probably do this in a minute too, but pretty straightforward, I think. Once logged in, go to courses, you'll see an RCOS stress test course. I actually haven't looked at this yet. Join the course and just start looking at videos, playing around with it. Graham Ramsey and Damian Mastelo are students that have been in RCOS who have worked on this, taken the lead on this project. They're actually both on internships right now, but they're tuned in, they're watching from afar. So they're going to kind of watch what happens when we actually do this kind of stress test. Also some folks in the VCC, some .CIO folks on campus are looking as well, just to make sure that we're going to be able to handle the load of 30 plus students over the summer. So play around with this, we're also looking for feedback. So as we get into the fall, we're going to have this project active again in terms of development. Some development over the summer, but feel free to email me any usability suggestions, bugs that you might notice, and we might try to do a coordinated, everyone press play at the same time in a few minutes. But get on the site, what's going on? Not much.
Yeah.
Working.
Where's the RCOS stress limits?
It should be accessible through wireless unless this room has some strange restrictions. Anyone able to hit the site?
Yeah.
Through wireless in this room?
Yes.
That's a good sign, okay. Everyone know how to spell grapefruit? No, I'm kidding. So play around with it for a few minutes. Maybe I'll talk to give you some more details about the project in the meanwhile. The idea of Grapefruit, Graham and Damian, I think Graham came up with the name, and you may have heard this before, but certainly apples are often tied or associated with education, and being that this is kind of a very relatively new paradigm going completely online or a flipped classroom where there's a lot of online materials, a grapefruit is very different from an apple, so that's kind of the idea behind the name. But also, it's in Ruby on Rails, so that kind of goes along with it as well, right? Ruby, Grapefruit, and so on. So very clever, huh? Success. Anyone not able to find their way? It's a good sign. I'll do this up here as well, just so we can see what's happening. Those who might not have, or might not have laptops, you can kind of see what the system looks like. So if I go to courses, there are the Calculus Bridge courses, which some of the content is in place. We're working with Professor Piper and some other, I think primarily math students, maybe all math students, graduates, undergrads. They've been working on the content. So that's loaded up, some of it in the Calculus Bridge courses. The RCOS stress test. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to join the course. You can see there is a document there. And there's Graham. He instructs this course apparently. Good. So again, some usability ideas. If you run into bugs, certainly, or if you run into things that seem confusing, feel free to put that in an email to me. But as you can see, this kind of has a way to post documents. There is a discussion board. You might play around with that. So you should be able to post things to the discussion board. And then along the left. So
Is there a way to know how many people have signed up to this course right now? Or any time?
actually, yeah, right up there, I think 37 out of 420. So it looks like 37 folks have registered for this. impression. Up to 40, all right.
Right now, it doesn't do anything. It tells me
Here's where you navigate kind of the content. We have capsules is what we call those. And then from the capsules, there's individual lectures. So if I check out Amos E. Lecture 1, Lecture 2. It's almost CS department, well, sort of. The order in there is kind of warming. Lecture 1, all of the videos, by the way, are in something else on campus, a different machine, a media site machine. Commencement was broadcast out through Media Site Live to, I forget, a couple hundred internationally without any issues. We're figuring we're going to get the same kind of good, video streaming off campus. And open this in a larger window. And actually, you can see some of the content here. And Bruce Piper's talking, but I don't have the volume on. But you guys know all this stuff, right? This is easy. Play around with this as well. Media site is something that .cio folks are working on, so there'll likely be a new version of this. For example, there is no way to go to full screen, so we added that button in our own interface. And actually just something maybe sort of interesting, the way that Professor Piper put this together is that he built all this stuff, I think in an Adobe or some PDF, and then hit undo a bunch of times to get back to square zero. And then hit redo every time to have each step show up. So kind of an interesting way to attack it. Any questions about the system? Yes?
Are the videos eventually going to be able to be played on mobile?
They don't play on mobile right now?
It says you have to get in order to get it play on mobile.
Good question. Well, definitely, I'll ask the crew about that. Us, Graham and Damien. I know that this course is through Media Site. That's where Bruce has kind of posted all the videos. You can actually, when you create a course in the system, some of the other functionality, you can actually just upload a video to YouTube and have it connected that way. The YouTube plugin thing here on the laptop or screen or desktop is much nicer than Media Site, I think, at this point. We also have annotation in those videos. We haven't done much with mobile devices, so good question and good bug. Other questions, observations?
Can you change the speed of the...
Oh, yes. Yeah, so something, you can speed it up, which also speeds up the audio, obviously, so it sounds like Mickey Mouse is teaching, of course. But it turns out, I guess there's been studies or observations in larger scale MOOCs, right? Massive open online classroom systems with even millions of enrolled students, that most people tend to speed it up. Right, most people tend to go to 1.4 or 1.6, or I forget the exact rate that was the average, or the median, whatever. All right, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. If you're watching a video right now, stop it. So we're going to just kind of all hit play at the same time. This is kind of a interesting stress test, right? If we all hit play at the same time. So everyone stop. Okay. So stop the video that you're looking at. Go to a different video. I'll do the same. Thank you. Yeah, good point. So go to a completely different capsule, different lecture that you haven't looked at yet. And either here or in a larger window. Don't hit the play button yet, but get ready, and I'll say after Mark's get set, go. Anyone not there yet? Microsoft Silverlight. Okay, so it sounds like there's a compatibility issue. If you don't mind, email me the details as to what browser, what operating system, and all that. Sorry? Is anyone else on Linux, by the way? And you're having success, or no? Yeah?
I'm in Firefox, so.
Firefox, okay. So different browser?
Working fine for me.
Okay. And you're on Linux and you're using Chrome? Okay. All right, well, let's get ready to play the video that you've selected. On your marks, get set, go. Feel all the video wireless in the air? That's why it's so hot in here. Feel free to turn on the audio and play it at faster speed if you like. Get the full experience.
Videos are being served on a different server.
Yeah. Who here, anyone here have Bruce Piper in a calculus course before? Only a couple of them. That's true, you can also go slower, right? And you go at half speed. Feel free to jump around to bookmarks now, things like that. So one of the nice things, one of the goals of this is obviously with videos, and actually out of curiosity, how many folks have taken an online course? How many folks have just kind of looked at some online video stuff when you're Googling to figure something out? So videos are helpful. Makes sense? Good. So you definitely probably already know, or it's pretty clear that this is a nice interface and the students can go backwards. They can watch something 10 times until they get it. And again, different speeds can help too. All right, I guess last but not least, I'll just say again, this project, there's a few students working on it over the summer. Essentially helping for the rollout, which will be at the end of this month, early June. About 30 incoming freshmen.
July. This month is June.
Yes.
Next month is July.
End of June, like 2 weeks. So first week of July, somewhere in there, for 2 weeks, 30 students or so will be on campus learning the system as well as another part of the system that they're going to be using, the textbook, which is online through the publisher, through Pearson. And then they'll be home for the rest of the summer, presumably using this system and either learning calculus or refreshing their calculus skills and so on. But definitely for you guys in the fall, as you think about RCOS again, think about getting involved with this project. We're going to have more plans for this project. In particular, a way to automatically check problems. So imagine you have a math problem and you have the students plugging in some answers and just checking whether they're correct or not. So there are other systems that do that successfully. So we're trying to figure out whether to build our own or plug something. Yep.
What is it written in?
So it is Ruby on Rails. Any other last questions? Yes, sir.
How much of the courses will be like visible to students that are enrolled in class?
Oh, good. Good question. The question was how much of this content will be available to just anyone in general. At the moment, I really don't know. I know the initial push is this calculus bridge course and to have it just be a closed, only certain students get into it. But also at the moment, Grapefruit is wide open. You go to this URL, you can sign up and take these courses and look at this material. So we might figure that out. I might learn more from Bruce Piper today or other folks as to how that's going to be. I know there's a few different courses where instructors have, we presented this at the end of last semester where instructors have said, oh, I want to get some of my course material on here. So I think we'll see some material coming in, and then probably those rules and policies will fall into place then as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
For courses that have like online reading content, do you think there'll be an option in the future to link like a specific snippet of text next to the problem as they play on the video?
Yeah, so the question was if there's like a link to some other material that be integrated into the interface. And that is something we want to do. At the moment, in terms of functionality, I think we can upload files here, so there might be some files there, like PDFs and so on. I know that they're also looking to put in links to other some generic links. So I think that functionality will kind of be there in the short term, but hopefully better embedded into the interface in the longer term, probably in the fall. Maybe one more question. Watching the time. Yep.
I guess this is more of like a question or like a recommendation for the group. Like I looked at their gem file on their repo and they're using the server thin, which is like an easier server, but like Puma or Unicorn is better at handling multiple requests. So if that's something you're like, well, like what we just did.
Yeah.
So like Unicorn or Puma is typically better with response times. So
Makes
maybe
sense.
that's something to look into.
Yeah, if you don't mind, shoot that in an email to me. I'll definitely get that to you. Then longer term, we'll have a broader audience. All right, folks. Feel free to play around with this as well. Maybe not in the next hour or so as you're watching other presentations, but definitely feel free this week to get some feedback to me if you like. Thank you.